The fall of an empire, the lesson of Byzantium. In 1453, the Byzantine Empire fell. Let us now take a look at how this happened.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا
الله. This city was once called Constantinople. 6 centuries ago, it was the capital city of what was, without exaggeration, one of the greatest civilizations in world history, the Byzantine Empire. A rule by law, something we now take for granted, was created here, based upon the Roman codes in Byzantium 1,500 years ago. A legal system which was to become the basic foundation of all types of laws in most modern governments was the monumental creation of Byzantine jurisprudence during the reign of Emperor Justinian. The system of elementary and higher education first developed in Byzantium. It was here in the 5th century that the first university appeared. The most stable financial system in the history of mankind was created in Byzantium and existed in a nearly unaltered form for over 1,000 years. Modern diplomacy, with its basic principles, rules of conduct, and etiquette, was created and refined here in Byzantium. Byzantine engineering and architectural arts were unrivaled. Even today, famous works by Byzantine masters was the domes of the Hagia Sophia amazed the world with their technological perfection. No other empire in human history lasted as long as Byzantium. It existed for 1,123 years. In comparison, the great Roman Empire collapsed 800 years after its establishment. The Ottoman Empire fell apart after 500 years. The Chinese Qing or Manchu Empire after 300 years. The Russian Empire lasted 200 years, the British 150 years, the Austro-Hungarian Empire lasted around 100 years. During its zenith, Byzantium was home to 1/6 of the entire world population. The empire stretched from Gibraltar to the Euphrates and Arabia. It encompassed the territories of modern Greece and Turkey, Israel and Egypt, Bulgaria, Serbia and Albania, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, part of Italy, Spain, and Portugal. There were around 1,000 cities in Byzantium, nearly as many as in modern Russia. The capital city's incalculable wealth, its beauty and elegance, amazed all the European peoples, who were still barbarians at the time when the Byzantine Empire was in its apogee. One can only imagine, indeed history records it as such, how crude, ignorant Scandinavians, Germans, Franks, and Anglo-Saxons, whose chief occupation at the time was primitive sacking and pillaging. After arriving from some town like Paris or London, which had populations of some tens of thousands, to this megalopolis of millions, a city of enlightened citizens, scholars, and elegantly dressed youths, crowding imperial universities, dreamt of only one thing: invading and robbing, robbing and invading. In fact, when this was actually accomplished in 1204 by an army of Europeans calling themselves Crusaders, who instead of freeing the Holy Land treacherously sacked the most beautiful city in the world. Byzantine treasures were carried away in an uninterrupted flow over the course of 50 years. Hundreds of tons of precious coins alone were carried away at a time when the annual budget of the wealthiest European countries was no more than 2 tons of gold. Venice, the Cathedral of St. Mark. All the columns, marble, and precious adornments were stolen at that very time. By the way, those horses are from the imperial quadriga, carried away from Constantinople by the Crusaders. Priceless holy relics and works of art were looted, but even more taken by barbarians from Brussels, London, Nuremberg, and Paris were simply destroyed, melted down into coins, or thrown away like refuse. To this day, the museums of Europe are bursting with stolen Byzantine treasures. But let us take into consideration that only a small portion was actually preserved. It was during this period of looting that the monstrous modern lending system was created using treasures stolen from Constantinople. This average-sized city in Italy, Venice, was the New York of the 13th century. The financial fate of nations was decided here. At first, most of the booty was easily taken by sea to Venice and Lombardy. The Russian word for pawn shop to this day is Lombard. The first European banks began to spring up like mushrooms after a good rain. The English and Dutch, more reserved than their contemporary Italians and Germans, joined the activity a little later, and, with the help of Byzantine riches pouring in, developed that famous capitalism with its inevitable lust for profits, which is essentially a sort of genetic continuation of the sport of military plunder. The first significant Jewish capital was amassed as a result of speculation in Byzantine relics. An unprecedented flow of free money caused the Western European cities to grow turbulently and became the decisive catalyst in the development of craft, science, and the arts. The barbaric West became the civilized West only after it had taken over, seized, destroyed, and swallowed up the Byzantine Empire. We must admit that our own Slavic forebears were no more well-mannered and also succumbed to the barbaric temptation to get rich quick at the expense of Constantinople's seemingly inexhaustible wealth. However, to their credit, and fortunately for us, their lust for the spoils of war did not eclipse the most important thing. Russians comprehended Byzantium's greatest treasure. This was neither gold, nor expensive textiles, nor even art and sciences. The greatest treasure of Byzantium was God. Having traveled the world over in the search of the truth and God, the ambassadors of Grand Prince Vladimir of Russia experienced only in Byzantium that a true relationship between God and man exists, that it's possible for us to have living contact with another world. We did not know whether we were in heaven or on earth, said the ancestors of present-day Russians, astounded by their experience of divine liturgy in the empire's most important cathedral, the Hagia Sophia. They understood just what kind of treasure can be obtained in Byzantium. It was upon this treasure that our great forebears founded not banks, nor capital, nor even museums and pawn shops. They founded Rus, Russia, the spiritual successor of Byzantium. So what made it possible for a nation so great in the arena of world history, with such extraordinary capabilities, to so suddenly begin to lose its life-giving force? What is most interesting is that the problems Byzantium met during its period of decline, aggression from foreign nations, natural disasters, economic and political crises, were nothing new for this over 1,000-year-old government with its proven mechanism for getting out of the most difficult situations. After all, the empire had experienced all these things before and had overcome them. Yes, there were many envious enemies both east and west. There were earthquakes. There were plagues. But it was not these which